Welcome, everybody, back to the Realty Rundown with the Nic Wyse team. Today, we are going to be diving into an issue, great start, an issue that frustrates a lot of buyers. Trigger leads. It may frustrate you and you don't even know what they are, but it is a hot topic because we've got some new legislation that's moving through Congress in an attempt to shut it down.
Yeah, that's right. And to help break it all down, we're joined by Alan Hibshman. He's a loan originator with Interra Credit Union. Alan, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Nick, for having me here today. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Hey, we appreciate you. Alan is always there for us as far as when we have questions about what's going on in the mortgage industry. He reaches out every single week and gives us an update. It means a lot. We definitely appreciate it. We appreciate working with your clients as well. So thank you, Alan. I want to start at the top, though, I guess, Alan, if you can describe what is a trigger lead and how does it impact someone when they're applying for a home loan?
Sure. I don't think a lot of people realize that when we run credit for a mortgage, it's actually a different type of report than what they would do for like a credit card or a car. It's actually specifically geared for mortgage, and it pulls all three bureaus, and we take the middle score when we do that. But what happens is when we do run that credit, there's other lenders out there who buy those leads. I think people would be amazed by how much of their information is actually out there for sale, especially through the credit bureaus. And so a lender may get a lead saying that Nic Wyse ran a credit report for a mortgage. That's pretty much all they get, in that name and a phone number. And then once that lender gets that, then they'll call the borrower, to try to offer them what they have for their products and services.
Interesting. I will say I've had some clients, as soon as they apply for the mortgage or shortly after, they do get bombarded with phone calls, emails. I've had some like spam mail, but it can certainly be overwhelming to the process.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying, Alan. It's not that Alan Hibshman and Interra Credit Union are selling your information. It's the fact that you're pulling this from the credit bureaus. They're selling the information, as far as I understand it. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, we don't sell it out to anybody. Obviously, we don't want other lenders to be calling our borrowers. But yes, it's through the credit bureau. They can get that information through there if the borrower hasn't opted out for any pre-screens previously. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, why we're bringing this up now is that there is a Homebuyer Privacy Protection Act, which is gaining traction right now in Congress. And its basic aim, as I understand it, is to stop lenders from accessing your credit data without your consent. So not so much that you have to go into some back alley somewhere and remove the ability for them to sell your leads. This would, I think, maybe take away their ability to do that. So Alan, from your perspective as a lender, how big of a headache is this for both you and for your clients?
I mean, it can be for the clients because, the mortgage process is already confusing enough for a lot of people, especially I think we've all seen this last year, a lot of first-time home buyers come into the market now, and it can kind of be overwhelming. Then all of a sudden they're getting all these calls right when they're getting the process started with one person, and they're not sure where these calls are coming from. I think a lot of these calls are coming from lenders who aren't local, that might be out of state, or ones that they've never heard of before. I mean, for me, it's really not that much of a headache. It is because it affects my borrowers. I've always encouraged everybody to shop. It's always good to see what else is out there because every lender specializes in their own certain things. So I have no problems with that. As long as I'm doing my job and doing my job well, then they'll come back to me. But I know for me personally, I don't like getting phone calls like that during the day, especially if it's, 20 or 30 in a row all of a sudden. That can be pretty annoying. And I'll have to admit, I was one of those people when I first started out that was making those calls. Where I was at, when you first start out and you have no prospects, you'll take whatever you can get. So we would get these leads, and when I would call them, I would be apologetic. I'd leave a message and I'd be like, hey, I'm sorry. I know you've gotten 30 or 40 calls probably already today. I'm sorry to add to it. It's my job. If you need something, call me. But yes, it can be overwhelming. Like I said, I'm all for competition and for people shopping, but for them to do it on their terms and not for getting calls, random calls from places they don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, but this legislation would restrict lenders from using trigger leads unless there's a pre-existing relationship or written consent from the consumer. Would that be correct?
Yes, that's what it sounds like to me as far as that goes. So I know right now, if you don't want to get those, you have to go to optoutprescreen.com to do that. I mean, I've done that myself, even though I'm not planning on getting a mortgage. But if I do apply for something else, I don't want to be getting a lot of calls that way. Like I'm a person who likes to shop around too, but I want to do that on my time. I don't want people calling me. I want to call people if I do that. But yes, this legislation should stop those calls from happening.
Yeah. So that was opt-out pre-screen.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that too. Personally,
Oh, yeah.
you know, at the end of the day, it's not totally all about privacy. That's obviously a huge part of it. It's really about restoring confidence for people in the mortgage process, especially for first-time home buyers. Alan, you mentioned it can be a little overwhelming for people, especially up front, you know, when they're going through this process and it seems like, now what? Now I've got to turn this over. Now I've got to get this document. So it's a lot. I think this will just make it a little less stressful.
Yes.
Yep. Agreed. And Alan, so how are you and other local lenders adjusting your strategies as this legislation moves forward? Are you seeing more demand for personalized relationship-driven lending?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not sure how many of the local lenders are using these trigger leads because I can't imagine there's a lot of success rate with those when you're getting a lot of calls. But I have seen a lot more with the personalized service here. It seems like with most of the first-time home buyers, and you know the ages are getting higher with the first-time home buyers, but normally we think about people in their 20s like to do things online and don't want to come into the bank and kind of, you know, want to make it a little bit easier. But I've seen a lot of these younger people want to actually meet in person now. They want that face-to-face. They want that personalized service to where, you know, like I said, it can be overwhelming, you know, the whole process because there's a lot of moving parts to it. So they want to come in and they want to look somebody in the eye and know that they're going to get taken care of and get good advice. And they're going to have somebody there along the way for them to help them out. So,
Yeah. Yep. No, I think you're exactly right. Alan, again, thank you for your insights on this. You know, if you're a buyer or a home buyer or a potential home buyer and you're listening right now and you want that secure, respectful lending experience, make sure you talk to a local lender, someone like Alan Hibshman here with Interra. You know, you can value what he does for you because you can trust him, and not just with your data, but with your experience as well.
Yeah, that's right. So Nic, beyond fear of spam calls, how does this change affect home buyers?
I think it's just going to lessen the stress of the loan process. You know, we talked about the first-time buyers especially, but for everybody, Alan, you know this because you're dealing with it all the time, but you know, somebody's going through the process of getting a mortgage. It seems like there's always something that needs to be turned in, you know, like, hey, we need another pay stub to come in. We need this letter of explanation of how these funds showed up in your account in the first place. There's a lot of moving parts when that happens. And it's not Alan sitting behind his computer going, what can I ask for next? You know, you've got underwriters and you've got people that are behind the scenes, your processors, your closers who say, you know, we want to make sure that this loan is what we think it is. And so we're going to go through this process. So it's already a lot. There's already some stress in there. I think this is just going to help get rid of some of that stress, narrow down. You're just doing the things you need to be doing instead of answering, like you said, 30 or 40 phone calls from people who are doing a bit of predatory lending, maybe.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, that is something that I kind of mentioned up front. Like, hey, I'm going to ask for a lot of stuff. Some of it might not make sense, but we underwrite to Fannie Mae, and Fannie Mae is out there to protect consumers and make sure we're doing good loans. So sometimes Fannie kind of wants to get a little bit more into the business and, you know, make sure that we're doing our due diligence and that we're doing what we're supposed to do to make sure that, you know, we're doing what's right for our borrowers. So yeah, when you're dealing with that, then getting calls, then you get confused. Like, was this from you? Because I'll get that too. I'm like, was this call from you in Interra, or was this from, you know? And so anything that we can do to make the process simpler, you know, that's why I always recommend having a realtor. It's going to make the process easier for you, right? Because they'll ask me questions. I'm like, that is not my area of expertise. I don't really want to answer that question for you. Call Nic, call Nathan. They'll let you know what you need to do. So
that's awesome. Yeah. So I think you kind of, answered for us, what could this potentially do to the area lenders, and I think it's just going to continue to make that pivot toward that relationship based marketing, not so much the cold calls, but hey, we've got a relationship. You've been referred to me because I helped somebody in the past. So it's not just so much about grabbing leads. I think it's going to be a healthy shift for the whole industry.
Yeah, I would agree. So where does the bill go from here?
So as I understand it, it's already cleared the Senate. Similar version has now passed in the House Financial Services Committee. So I think most people fully expect this to be passed and signed by the end of the year. And this could obviously pave the way for future privacy protections in real estate and in lending. So I think there's more coming down the road from this. I think this is something people want. Congress hears you. We've got this started, and there's probably going to be more things along this line coming down the road. So I think that's it. That's what we had for this episode of the Realty Rundown from the Nic Wyse team. Again, a huge thank you to our guest, Alan Hibshman from Interra Credit Union, for joining us today, shedding light on trigger leads, what they are, and how they impact the Homeowners Privacy Protection Act.
Yeah, Alan, we appreciate your insight. It's clear that this legislation could really improve the home buying experience and protect borrowers from some of the chaos that comes with unsolicited offers.
Yeah. I'm hoping that whatever it does to make it a little bit easier, a little bit less stress-free is great for me. So really appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys, what you do for my members, and look forward to working with you more.
Absolutely, guys. Well, yeah, whether you're a buyer, a seller, or someone just trying to navigate the mortgage maze, staying informed about these changes helps you make better decisions, and working with local professionals like Alan can make all the difference.
Absolutely. And Alan, how can people get in touch with you if they have some more questions?
Sure. Yeah, they can just call me directly. I use my cell phone for everything. So 574-370-7228. Call or text me, and just have questions or just want a second opinion on anything.
Or if you're triggered, triggered.
That's right.
I'm not easily triggered, as you can see from my thing. All right, guys. Thanks again, Alan, Nate, for joining me. Again, everybody, if you're listening, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to the Realty Rundown whenever you're listening to podcasts. Don't forget to share this episode with a friend who's getting ready to buy a home, and we will see you next time.